For over 20 years, women have been told by their doctors, by the media, by their friends, their coworkers, even by the FDA, hormones are dangerous. But no one's talking about the serious risks of not replacing the hormones your body loses after menopause. What if the real danger, the risks women should be most concerned about, are the risks of not taking hormones after menopause? Well, I've spent 25 years studying hormone optimization, talked with thousands of women, taken a deep dive into the research. I've even created hormone resources that are trusted by doctors in the US, Canada, and the UK. I'm convinced that whether you take hormones for your menopause symptoms or not, you face risks either way. In this video, we'll take a balanced, research-backed approach to the supposed risks of HRT, and I'll explain several other risks that most women aren't really hearing that much about. You've probably heard over and over about the risks of taking hormones, especially estrogen, that make women, and even their doctors, a little nervous. Well, here's the secret. For most women, those risks seem pretty scary, but the reality may not be as scary as you've been led to believe. Hormones are there to protect your heart, your brain, your bones, your metabolism, your muscles. When they go away, and they don't come back unless you replace them, your body starts operating without some of its most important tools. Yes, there are some risks with hormone replacement therapy, but most of what women have heard about those risks comes from one study. It's called the Women's Health Initiative, often referred to as the WHI. The WHI was published in 2002 and caused pretty much widespread panic about hormones, women dumping their hormones down the toilet, which is not a good idea. But when you look closely, the details make a big difference. The average woman in the WHI was 63. More than a decade past menopause. These women were starting hormone therapy very late. They went without any hormones for more than 10 years. And they weren't using the hormones that would usually be recommended for them today. They were given something called conjugated equine estrogens that come from horse pee, along with a synthetic progestin called medroxyprogesterone. Those women did see some slightly negative outcomes. Heart disease and stroke made big headlines in 2002, but again, these risks showed up in older women starting HRT very late, and they were using the wrong type of hormones. When hormone therapy is started within a few years of menopause, studies like the ELITE trial actually show improved cardiovascular outcomes. Oral estrogen, especially conjugated equine estrogen, can slightly increase blood clot risk for deep venous thrombosis. But bioidentical estradiol carries a much lower risk. And in healthy women without a history of clotting issues, the absolute risk is actually pretty small. Breast cancer is really the big one, the fear that keeps many women from even considering the possibility of hormones. But the nuance about the Women's Health Initiative is there was a slight increase in breast cancer risk, but it was linked to synthetic progestins, medroxyprogesterone, and not natural bioidentical progesterone. In fact, one large study in France showed that estradiol and progesterone might actually reduce breast cancer risk. It's also true that taking estrogen alone without progesterone can increase the risk of endometrial cancer in women who still have a uterus. But that's exactly why we always combine estradiol with progesterone to protect the uterine lining. When both of those hormones are used together appropriately, the risk is essentially eliminated. It's not a problem. The Women's Health Initiative reported an increased risk of dementia, but only in women who started hormone replacement after age 65. A lot of recent research shows that when hormone replacement is started closer to menopause, estradiol may actually help protect the brain. It's a lot more about timing. So yes, there are some risks for hormone replacement therapy, but when you look at the type, the timing, and the delivery of hormone therapy, most of those risks shrink dramatically. And for most healthy women in early menopause, the risks of hormone replacement therapy are not nearly as scary as you've been led to believe. Let's talk about the risks that don't get nearly enough attention. The risks that show up when women don't replace their hormones after menopause. We're talking about serious, even life-threatening diseases that almost every postmenopausal woman is at risk for, simply because her hormones are missing. The number one cause of death for women over 50 is heart disease. In fact, heart disease affects 1 out of every 2 women over 50. That's not a typo. Half of all women will face heart disease as they get older. Before menopause, women have a natural advantage. Estradiol helps keep your blood vessels flexible, supports healthy blood lipids. But once your estrogen, your estradiol drops at menopause, that advantage disappears. Plaque starts building up in your arteries, inflammation increases. The scary part is that a woman's first symptom of heart disease is often a fatal heart attack. Estradiol also plays a key role in insulin sensitivity. When estrogen disappears, insulin resistance can often take over. It can lead to belly fat, high blood sugar, and eventually even develop into type 2 diabetes. Diabetes doesn't just affect your blood sugar, though. It also damages your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your vision, and your brain. It accelerates aging across the board. Well, I just mentioned type 2 diabetes, but have you heard of type 3 diabetes? That's what researchers are starting to call Alzheimer's disease. And the reason they call it that is because of the strong link between insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, and memory loss. According to the American Diabetes Association, diabetes increases the risk of Alzheimer's by 43%. Emerging research shows that estradiol can help protect the brain. Women make up 2/3 of all Alzheimer's cases. If hormone therapy can help prevent even a fraction of those cases, maybe it's worth considering. Well, my mom skipped hormone replacement therapy because she had no symptoms. She didn't see any need for it. Now she's 84. She can't really remember anything for 10 seconds. And dementia is incredibly hard, not just for her, but for my dad and for all of our family. Estrogen is also essential for maintaining bone density. In the first few years after menopause, women lose up to 20% of their bone mass. That's osteoporosis, bones becoming thin, hollow, and fragile. Fractures in the hip, the spine, or even the wrist can mean surgery, disability, or worse. Both my parents have broken their hips in the past few years. We're still dealing with the fallout of my dad's recent fall and my mom's memory issues right now. I'm going to be driving 2 days from now, 800 miles, to be with my parents. It's real life. And it's not just bone loss, it's also muscle loss. Sarcopenia is the medical term for severe muscle wasting. Without estrogen and testosterone, muscle tends to melt away. That leads to weakness, falls, and a loss of independence. My dad's fallen multiple times because of sarcopenia. He's incredibly weak. A major fall this past January, combined with severe osteoporosis, yeah, men get it too, caused him to break his hip. A broken hip led to surgery, a month in a rehab hospital, and now he's in a wheelchair. He's lost more than just his mobility. He's also lost his freedom. He now needs round-the-clock assistance in assisted living because of his lack of mobility. And it's taken a heavy emotional and financial toll on our whole family. It is obscenely expensive. So yeah, there are some risks with hormone therapy, but the risks of not taking hormones include heart disease, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's and cognitive decline, osteoporosis and broken bones, sarcopenia and the loss of strength, mobility, and independence. These aren't rare diseases. They're the default for postmenopausal women who don't replace their hormones. Look around. You can see it happening everywhere. Here's what it all comes down to. Whether you take hormone replacement therapy for your menopause symptoms or not, you face risks either way. We've been trained to focus only on the risks of taking hormones. Very few women, and maybe even fewer doctors, are looking at the risks of doing nothing. But doing nothing also comes at a price, in lost quality of life, sometimes even life itself. The real question isn't, are hormones risky? It is, which risks are you willing to live with?